All right, there we are, guys. We are good to go. We're not streaming on YouTube because what's really odd is that she's better at that than I am. Apparently. I've fallen out of practice, so I'm gonna change seats. I'm not clerk anymore. All right, so for those of you that don't know, before we get going, Linda is having some health issues. I don't know how much of it she cares to share with us. But she came in, she stopped by and she got this set up and then had to leave again, so but she is with us. She's gonna be listening in, probably taking notes, but we're recording tonight. Like I said, we're not on YouTube. We do have some stuff to get through. Fortunately, we have a full quorum. Jimmy may have to leave early, just so everyone knows. And if the council is ready, I'll go ahead and call to order the meeting. All right, go ahead and call to order the town council meeting for December 12th, 2024, and we will begin with a moment of silence. Amen. All right, I need a motion to approve the agenda. Scott makes a motion, Mike seconds, all in favor, unanimous. All right. Then I need a motion to adopt the consent agenda. Jimmy makes the motion, Scott seconds, all in favor, unanimous. There's no attorney report, so we will go ahead and enter into the public hearing. This is where I need Linda, wish she was here, to rezone a piece of property and make a map amendment for that property for Mary Beth Hughes at 455 River Street. This rezoning and zoning map amendment would be to change that property from R1 to R2 multifamily. The immediately adjacent property owned by the Irvins has been rezoned to R2. So I believe that is part of the reason that this has come in, is to make that match up. But the Linda, I don't know if there's anything else I need to really say about that.
All the background and everything is in my zoning report for the rezoning, which it may be down in the new business part of it, but I can't remember where I put it, if it was in the public hearing part or the new business part, but I only put it in there once. But my report's in there.
But were there any negative reports from your assessment?
No.
Okay. All right. So then what we'll do is go ahead. This is the public hearing aspect. We will open the floor.
Can I say a little something first before we get it, before we start saying, asking people who's for it and who's against it? Because I know in the planning and zoning, I gave a little,
I think, so this is why I need Linda.
Yes. She can be the first one to speak in favor and present her application.
Right.
Okay.
So what we're gonna do is we're gonna do 10 minutes in favor, 10 minutes opposed. So you can be the first or in favor, and then explain what's happening. Just keep in mind that other people may want to speak, so
I'll keep it short.
I figure you will. So let's go ahead and open the floor to those that are in favor of this rezoning application and zoning map amendment.
Okay, I'm gonna go first.
Just need your name and address.
Yeah, Mary Beth Hughes, 455 River Street. I am asking for my property to be rezoned from R1 to R2 because I want to come into compliance. I do have a rental apartment in my basement, and therefore I am out of compliance with R1. R2 allows, multifamily. Now, from the planning and zoning recommendation, you'll see in the notes that it came with a condition. The condition being that it just be 2 family. And I would like to ask the city council to remove that condition, to not have that condition in there. When I presented my application and spoke to the planning and zoning, my immediate thought was just, coming into compliance. So then it just flowed from there, that it just be 2 family. But I'd like to say to y'all that, yes, that's the immediate need, is to come into compliance. But my long-term goal is I would like to be able to have the opportunity for it to be more than 2 families, for it to be 3 families. I've got the basement apartment, there's a middle floor, and then there's an upstairs that would make a very nice apartment, and it would be very easy for that to have its own entrance and for it to be a standalone unit. My thought in doing that, my family, and our thought in doing that is so that the main floor could be for our family, for guests. Let me just back up and say that I'm moving out of this house. I'm building a little cabin on the other side. So that's where I'm going to live come May. Because I really want to look out my bedroom window and see my house versus being in my bedroom where it is now and looking out and seeing what's coming there. I'll leave it at that. So ultimately, if it works out for us, for my family to do that, I'd like to have the opportunity to do that. That would enable my family to still enjoy the space. Like I say, I'm building a very small cabin. It could be for guests, it could be for family members, should they need a place to stay. And then by having the 2 rental units, and I'm looking at this being long-term rentals. And by having the 2 rental units, it would make it financially feasible for this home, this gorgeous home, to stay in my family. So I just would ask that you would consider the application without the condition attached to the recommendation from the PNC. So thank you.
All right. Are there any more that would like to speak in favor of this rezoning application? I don't have anybody online except Linda at this point. And I'm not seeing anyone in the waiting room either, so just for the record. I'm not completely falling down on my job, so. All right, there being nothing else, we will go ahead and close out the those in favor and open the floor to those that would be opposed to this rezoning amendment. Starting now.
I'm not really opposed to, for doing that, but is that the property where y'all against them building the rentals there? When all that started?
Yes, I don't want to look out my bedroom window and see.
But I was just thinking, I guess you're against them putting it there, but now you're asking for it.
Well, yes, because I'm trying to make lemonade out of lemons. It's basically what I'm doing. This house was built for my family and I can retire in.
Yeah, this is public hearing, so we can have this kind of conversation in a minute.
I understand. I understand.
I'm
It
not
looks
against
like,
it.
oh, look at her, but I think if anyone in my I'm sorry, but I think anyone in my situation would be trying to make the best out of this situation.
Yeah.
And that's what I'm doing.
So,
My family and I are doing.
so yeah, let's leave this to people that have come in that are actually opposed at this point. So, and I don't hear anybody. We don't have anybody else, and I've got an answer for what you're asking, so, in just a minute. All right, any others wanting to speak out against this? Not seeing any, we'll go ahead and close that section out. And the public hearing for the rezoning and map amendment to the zoning map is now closed. We will move on to first thing only because the list. We're gonna go ahead and go on to old business, where we're gonna talk about the text amendment for home occupations. Linda has dug into that and presented us with something that I feel is workable. So I don't know if there's any discussion from the council about the home occupation. It should be right after the zoning application in your packet.
It's amending part 2.
Yeah, we're amending part 2, so looks like it's maybe halfway through your pack. So this is this is something that planning and zoning sent to us at the request of our zoning administrator to help clarify what a home occupation was and what would be allowed and how. Linda and I did have some conversations because I was concerned about agricultural. Because agricultural is by nature somewhat a home-based business. But we were able to come to an agreement that this does not reduce what's allowed, it just constrains additional use. So I don't know if that makes sense. So if someone needs to hire outside workers to come into their property to pick strawberries, or if they want to have a roadside stand, that's still allowed. Because that's not a home occupation, that's agricultural use. This would be to bring agricultural into compliance with what we want to set up for R1. And it also helps us put off-street parking as part of some of the conditions for these uses. Because that's pretty important no matter where we are in town. We need people not to be parking in the middle of the street. Had to get on a guy today for parking his truck in the street over here by the dam. And I wouldn't have been able to get my fire truck through. And I would have ripped his truck apart trying to get out. And it'd be his fault. So anyway, luckily they were able to move it. No debate. So. Linda, I don't know if you want to add anything to that.
I'll just add that under the existing R1 and ag, under conditional uses, home occupations are listed there. So it's essentially moving that from conditional to permitted and, defining which ones are permitted. There's still some that would be outside of that could come for a conditional, use, but the, more or less what we talked about last time, the office natured ones that you're working from your home inside, your own office and nobody even knows you have a home business there. Those types, would be allowed without having to do any kind of special zoning.
Y'all understand what that means? They wouldn't have to come in, if they're doing this type of activity, they don't have to come in and get a special permit from the council. She would just be able to approve it as a zoning administrator. The business license, but this helps kind of define what requires a business license. So unfortunately, I'm gonna have to get on that. So anyway, any other questions, concerns? Does this sound like something we can work with? All right, then I would ask to have a motion to go ahead and
I
adopt
make a
this.
motion, we do it without the restrictions where she can do that.
No,
That's not her, this is different, yeah,
Okay.
yeah, so we'll get to that one next.
All right.
So we get the motion to adopt this zoning ordinance as presented. Scott makes the motion, Jimmy seconds. All in favor? It's unanimous. All right, good to go. Next, on the list is a deliberation to the council for rezoning Mary Beth's property and making an amendment to the map. What I would like to start off with is that the properties adjacent along the lake, I think there are only 3 that are fee simple owned, and the rest are still Georgia property leases. Am I correct?
4, 5,
There are 5 total.
There's 2 that are Georgia Power lease.
yes, 2 lease lots, that's my.
There's only 2 lease lots?
Yes,
So
mine.
Michelle and Grant, they're not lease lots? Okay,
And the Urbans.
and I know the Urbans is,
And the Beavers aren't,
and the,
or they used to be the Beavers.
but yeah, that's on the other side. So 2 of the lots up there are Georgia Power lease lots,
Right.
meaning they will not
They have their own.
allow,
restrictions.
they have their own restrictions that we don't govern at all. So I don't think you're gonna start seeing R2s pop up along the lake, and if it ever did, it would only be between that one cove just before Craig's lease. I don't know who has that one, but from
You
there
could
to
rezone
the
it, but
fire
your, but your
lines.
lease agreement with Georgia Power restricts your
Yeah, it
activities,
wouldn't
you're
allow-
not allowed to rent it, short-term, long-term, period, I can't rent my place long-term, period, it's that simple. We could rezone it 1,000 ways, it doesn't matter, my lease lot, which they own the property, doesn't allow for any other. Supersedes it all, so it doesn't really matter, so
And
it
then-
doesn't make a right.
And then
So
there's
it's not a
one,
conflict of interest on my part, is what I'm saying.
yeah, and there's one property past where the Urbans are doing their projects that is privately owned by the Beavers family. That would be the last one. Everything, my understanding is anything past that on that shoreline now belongs to the state park, or has been put in a trust by the,
Yes, and
Pruitt.
preserved.
It's in a preserve, so you wouldn't be seeing. So unfortunately, we're in the position where we're having to allow some things to happen, so allowing Mary Beth, who has been affected the most by this other activity, to pursue her request. It's sort of a consolation prize, if you will.
Thank you.
So, so and without the restriction, because we don't have a restriction, they're putting 12 units in next door. Why should we restrict putting only 2 units?
12 units with 2
Well-
bedrooms each.
So my concern is square footage. How big is that house that we're referencing?
My house?
Yeah.
Well,
Well, it doesn't
I'm
matter,
gonna say 4,000 square feet.
but it meets the current ordinance for our.
Yes.
Okay.
And also, please note that in doing this, that there would be no changes in the bathroom. I mean, there are already the bathrooms, everything's already in place, so it would just mean,
Yeah,
it's ready to go.
and it doesn't exceed our density issues for an R2 either, to have 3 units on, that's a full acre, isn't it?
I have 2 lots, so it's a little over half. I think the
Yeah, it says
Our
0.66.
lots, 0.66, the 2 lots together, I think are 0.66.
The top one, it's a good setup here.
I mean, you prove it, as long as it meets the ordinance.
I believe it meets the ordinance unless Linda has,
If it doesn't, it doesn't.
but I don't think she had a negative. She said she didn't have any negative.
No, nothing about that came up in the PNC discussion.
Okay,
Because they were also just considering 2 families at the time, right? That was,
I don't know
3
what,
families was.
I don't think
presented.
that's what, well, that wasn't presented. It was, if I'm not mistaken, she just simply wanted to rezone to R2. It was
Right.
planning and zoning that put the additional restriction on.
So why was the restriction put on?
I'm not sure.
I mean,
I
if
wasn't
if you
present.
meet that zoning requirement, you meet it, period. I'm just
Right.
curious. Why was the restriction put on? I wasn't at the meeting, that's my fault. but-
I mean, I talked to Linda about it after the meeting and, she said because that's what I was presenting, that I just wanted to come into compliance with my house as it was right now. Because I didn't even think that I needed to be thinking far ahead and presenting anything farther ahead when I didn't really know for sure that's what we were doing. I just thought all I needed to do was just rezone it.
Yeah. And to be
That's what you
fair,
should have to do. The ordinance is written.
to be fair, when she
I
presented,
don't get that part.
there have been some personal issues that popped up after that. We won't get into that. I'm not asking for that, but that opened the door to her wanting to go, okay, I would really rather have at least 3 units.
That's fine. I'm just trying to get at by
That's-
why someone in zoning, why did they want to do a 2-family dwelling?
Yeah.
Why would they even change the ordinance?
I feel
for
like
this
it was-
particular case.
In my opinion, I think it was a knee-jerk reaction, some attempt to
We could just
restrict.
say, hey, we're just gonna go by the
Just go
ordinance,
by
your
the
density,
ordinance.
your density, whatever you qualify for.
And I think that's what.
I wouldn't have to be,
should
that
have.
should have been,
I
so
think
that's
they
why.
should
Is
have.
there anyone in planning and zoning that could explain it? No.
No one
Um,
here.
I can
Linda?
speak.
Please.
So if you look at my report, that it came from me, because that's what she had asked for in the application. I had no idea at that particular time that she could or wanted to do any more than 2-family. So we are allowed to put conditions on a rezoning. And I talked to Warren, and that was kind of what he and I had talked about based on what her application was, that it would fit the density, fine with the multiple family. I mean, she would qualify for up to 4, for 0.66 acres, but in her application, she was asking for 2. So we
Okay,
were,
I understand.
Okay.
So we added it, not anyone in planning and zoning because. of the
no,
first-
they took my recommendation.
Okay, I got it.
Oh, okay.
So yeah, it's
Okay,
not a
so
problem. eliminating.
Apologies to planning and zoning if you ever listen to this.
No, I was asking.
Yeah, no, I misspoke.
apologize because I wasn't at the meeting.
Yeah, I wouldn't either.
So Warren's recommendation was just 2 families?
What?
No, he doesn't
No.
have a recommendation. He and I were just talking about what your options are. You can approve it with conditions, or you can deny it. And so based on the application at first glance, when, this is before we even had the first public hearing, I have to do a report. And so I was doing it strictly based on what was in her application.
Okay, I'm good.
Yeah, so
I,
I think we need to do it unconditional.
Yeah,
unconditional.
I make a motion that we accept the rezoning unconditionally based on the current. Updated ordinance.
Okay, Jimmy seconds that. All in favor, unanimous. All right, that is done.
Thank you.
Okay, we have next on the agenda is an alcohol license renewal. For the Edge Cafe. They seem to be going through people on a regular basis.
Yeah.
I don't believe Linda had any, I don't think there was anything that would cause us to deny that renewal.
No, this is for their next year application, but they are changing or did change managers too within this application. So they have done the background check and everything was good.
All right, so do I have a motion to,
Is this Jesse? Yeah, John Abbott. Okay, yeah, he's been around for a while.
okay, so I have a motion to approve the alcohol license renewal for the Edge Cafe. That's Scott. Craig seconds, all in favor, unanimous. All right, Linda? The next item on the agenda. There were some questions that I've had with Warren. Are you up to date on that?
No,
Okay. Tanya needs to renew our radar licenses every year or every 2 years. Okay. up until this last time, we had to get she just submitted a letter from from Habersham County saying, yeah, we're welcome to use the radio frequencies. Through several different conversations with Warren, with Habersham County, some others, there is a serious question. First of all, we've already renewed for this year, so it's not urgent that we take care of this tonight like we thought we would have been. It is my opinion, and I'm gonna do some more talking with Warren, that we don't need this intergovernmental agreement because we have a service delivery strategy that's already signed with the county. They will provide radio communications for our town, which includes these radio frequencies. But what I don't know yet is whether the authorizing agency will accept us saying, hey, we have an SDS already signed. So I think we need to do some more exploring on this.
So what's the problem with signing the authorization, both of them? Why does it matter?
Warren's concerned that to sign this particular intergovernmental agreement that was presented to us
Yeah.
might supersede the SDS. And he would rather stay with the SDS.
Even though this is specific to frequencies, that's more, isn't that larger?
Yeah, probably.
Why would it supersede it? Any other items outside of the radar frequency?
Well, the radar frequencies aren't, that's the thing. Radar doesn't use any of those
Or
frequencies.
whatever the call sign, FCC call sign.
Yeah, none of the K-band does not use those frequencies. So
Okay,
that's why
I just make sure we're not creating a problem that's
Yeah.
not necessary.
Yeah, well, that's why I'm saying, let's do some more investigation and make sure, if we need the IGA, then we'll do it. We've got 2 years, but we'll try to take care of it as more quickly than that. So I would like to table that until we can get more information. So Scott's gonna make the motion to table.
So,
Jimmy seconds, all in favor, unanimous?
I think it all this year depended on who got my application. Ever who got Cornelius made them do it. And ever who got mine accepted what I said. So
Yeah, and one of my emails, I made a comment that I'm wondering if the people at the agency is also doesn't understand what an SDS is. So, because they are bound by their own signature to provide radio communications and we've got every one of those call signs in every one of our portable and mobile radios right this minute. So why would we need to add another agreement to that? So. Anyway, there is a resolution in your packet, moving on to participate, which I'm gonna be honest, I thought this was kind of funny. A few weird things happened around this. Let's see. I want to find my paperwork here.
Is this different from last year?
The resolution? No, this is brand new. So what happened was, there is some serious concern right now in a new policies being enacted by a new leadership within Verisk. Verisk is the company that audits our fire department for ISO ratings. So this is all tied to ISO. The new leadership that covers our state and some other regions, like this kind of southeast region, is making a very narrow interpretation of ISO rules and standards. To give you an example, and I don't know which county it was, there was a county in Georgia that was a 1, which is the best ISO rating you can get. After the recent audit, they dropped to a 3 or 4. There are others that only dropped by 1 rating point and some other things, but the big thing in our area is that the number 1 question they talk about is personnel. that personnel need to actually respond in a consistent manner to fire calls for the town. Now, we have very few fire calls in town here, but we do respond to fire calls in both counties. Unfortunately, that's not gonna count for the counties. Demarest is extremely worried about what their next ISO rating will be because they do not historically have the number of firefighters responding to a call, to a fire call, not right now. So they have asked for a feasibility study in combining all the fire stations in the county and the cities all into one group and let the county cover all that. There's a little bit of pushback here and there, and there were some heated arguments of some Facebook posts that shouldn't have been made. Cornelia, Baldwin, I think Clarksville have all agreed to this, but I told them in the meeting, me personally, I don't mind having someone come in and do a study and just tell us whether it would be beneficial for us to combine our fire department with the counties. But like I told them, I feel like they're gonna be pushing the rope uphill on this because we're split between two counties. So Habersham would only be able to, if we were to combine with Habersham, they'd only cover the Habersham's county side of town, even on Hickory Neck. So that means we would still have to maintain a fire department for the Reagan County side. Unless Reagan County wanted to do something and combine with theirs and whatever, so. There's no obligation. That was my first question. As long as we are not saying that we will combine our fire stations, then I'm open. So
Let's
as,
hear what they have to say.
so with two hats on at the same time, I'm saying I'm not against this. So,
Yeah, so this is just a study.
It's just a study.
That's all we're saying right here.
And
Well,
Habersham's
moving forward.
covering the costs.
Yeah,
Yeah.
right, they're
Yeah.
covering everything.
More
Yeah, I think
information is helpful.
it
Yeah,
is.
yeah, let's hear what they say.
Yeah, I make a motion, it's a feasibility, there should be no commitment other than getting more
Absolutely no
information.
obligation.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Especially if it could down the road affect our ISO.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's important.
you don't
what I
want to
would-
going against
Yeah.
even looking into it, yeah.
What I would rather see is more volunteers joining in to help out so that we need 4 people to respond to any fire calls for the station. We're there, but only barely. And because we don't have that many fires inside the city limits. We do have we had a grass fire over at the state park the other day, so we barely make it. But only just.
Friday night.
So we need more.
Well, I make a motion, we move forward with this.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right, so I think Jimmy made the motion to go ahead and adopt. We'll let Scott
I'll second
second.
it. Yeah.
All in favor, unanimous, we will adopt this resolution and let Raven County know. They called me Monday or Tuesday on that.
Right, you mean Habersham.
Habersham, sorry. Do we have a letter of
No, I
intent?
don't see that.
I don't see it.
It's not in.
I got. a
So
couple of-
there's, I just saw one on email, but I don't know if you've had time to look at it.
No, I saw that just as I was heading down this way, so. So we had a meeting, Scott and Mike were at the meeting in Tanya, with the design build company. They would like us to sign a letter of intent. The idea here, we're probably gonna table this for now and deal with this later, January maybe. Cause we need to have, I'm not gonna feel comfortable until Warren has reviewed that letter of intent, to be honest. So, but as preparation to give you some front loading on this, we had a conversation about the process, what needed to happen, where we would go next. And in that conversation, the company does not feel comfortable putting out a set of super detailed plans, engineered plans for this project without knowing that they're gonna have the full contract. So in the conversation, we said, let's see if we can break this down into phases that we don't have to bid it out And they were agreeable to that. So that's kind of what this letter of intent's gonna be, once we get it nailed down, is to just be able to basically tell them, hey, we're gonna do a minimal set of plans. We will do verbal changes on the fly as we need to, like, for example, if Tanya wants her office to be olive drab, that's her call. We don't need to be involved in that. So, so we don't care about paint color. We don't care about some of those more detail. We don't care that there's an outlet every 3 or 4 feet along a wall. Let's let the design build company aim that out, and Tanya's gonna be our main point of contact on that. So
So is this a letter of intent to create the design, architect design or construction?
the letter of intent would be that we would want to use them for the whole project as long as we can
Construction
break
too.
it, construction, everything.
Okay, I got you.
As long as we can break it into chunks small enough that we don't run afoul of the state
So
mandate.
they'll give you a value, an estimated value,
Yeah,
and it'll change for you.
yeah, and we'll have phases along this phase. Is that, wasn't that what?
Oh, yeah.
It was.
Yeah. So at this point, I would like to just go ahead and get a motion to table the letter of intent until we get something formalized. Jimmy makes the motion, Scott seconds.
Question regarding that Rock House property, I don't know if now's the time to ask or.
Yeah, go ahead.
So I'm Kyle Jerome, I live at 144 Main Street, which is across the street, neighboring the Rock House. And, as you know, the driveway, as you might know, the driveway that is accessing the space that was cleared is, I have a plat here if you're interested in looking, but portions of that driveway are on the property that I live on. I'm not the homeowner, I rent, but, it has been brought to my attention that a good majority of that driveway is on our property. And so I'm curious, if there's been any talks or exploration about points of access for that parking lot back there, whether it's through the field that DNR owns or behind Mary Beth's property where those apartments are on the general store. And my main concern is that, when this letter of intent does get signed and the construction process does get started, that one, subcontractors are parking on our property and in our driveway that we use on a daily basis. And two, once the project gets finished, law enforcement using that driveway as the main access point to the Rock House. And so I'm curious
Okay, so
if there'd be any exploration or consideration for different points of access for that.
there will not be. I've already spoken with Georgia Power, who owns the lease on that, who owns that property. You lease it from them. Well,
Yeah, I
Bill
don't.
leases it. Bill leases that property from them. I already talked to Georgia Power. The intent, number one, would not be to obstruct the driveway. So for council that may not know, the property line between those two properties is exactly centered on that property going up through there. So we have half, they have half
Of the drive.
of the driveway just going up. Once you get to a certain point where that driveway starts to veer off to the right, we own all the rest of that. Up through there, had it surveyed, we've gone through that process. And I communicated that with several different people, Georgia Power. I think I reached out to you guys or Bill one. I spoke to someone, I think it may have been Bill, and let him know that we were looking at this. I know I spoke to.
Yeah, he informed me about the project, but not the utilization of the driveway that exists on our property.
So
Probably a joint easement.
it's a joint easement.
Yeah.
So the access is there now. We don't own their side of the driveway.
Yeah.
So we would never want to block that. So the idea would be that, yes, we need to, because of handicap accessibility, we're gonna have to use that awning that's on the building now, that space, but that's fully on our property. No,
We'll make sure to note in the construction language that it's definitely a comment in there not to block the joint
Yeah.
easement driveway.
part of the reason for clearing that out and creating that parking, that space up there was so that contractors would have a landing zone for their project. So,
I don't own the
Yes.
property, I just know that, my father-in-law owns the property and having
He leases
that
that.
driveway that he leases the property, sure. But he will eventually maybe consider selling that property someday and
Well, you
that-
can't sell the property, but you can sell the lease.
Okay, he will eventually consider selling the lease of that property someday. In which having the driveway that part of that is on the property may affect the resale value of that house. And so I'm simply just asking and curious if there has been any consideration of a different access point for that that doesn't affect or infringe upon the property that I reside on
Right.
and we lease from Georgia Power.
No, there's not been any consideration because that has been that's gonna fall under some other access laws and easement laws that have existed because those two properties, that driveway has been accessible to both. And so then to say that we need to stop doing that at this point would be a violation of what's been going on for more than 40 years.
Well, it was previously zoned residentially or that.
That has that plays no role in that. The DNR who had been accessing that before us, who had then donated to us, had been using it for over 20 years. And based on, what do you call it?
The DNR.
Adverse possession, we would be able to continue to claim that we still have access to that half of the driveway, even though it's not on our property. We don't want to go there.
Mhm.
So yes, we will do what we can to make sure that's not blocked. And that there's no way that we're gonna restrict access across it.
It should be written in
The
the
DNR
deeds.
also owns the property adjacent to the Rock House towards 441 between that property. and The Rock House, so I don't see why it wouldn't be possible to explore the option of having access through that area that doesn't infringe upon someone else's lease of a property through a shared driveway. I'm not saying that it's.
Because that shared lease use was already in existence before Bill got the
Sure.
lease to that. That's pre-existed. And I see no need to go exploring for other places to go to access property the town has been struggling to try to figure out how to use. Just because now there's a perceived issue that really doesn't exist. That we're not gonna, I don't see anyone saying, we're gonna stop you guys from accessing that driveway, both sides. We're not gonna block it off, we'll make sure that our construction guys know to stay clear of that, to keep it open so you guys can continue to use it. But,
So
We used to
there's no
drive-
possible exploration of different access points.
There's
Besides that,
there's a possibility, but look, there's probably written in the deeds that the property line is written out in meets and bearings, right? Distances, bearings. It's probably written in the deed that it splits that driveway. So it really, and I'm sure it probably reads in the deed that there's an easement. Because those are fairly modern houses, but you never know, it may not. The deed would clarify everything on that. Is there a way that possibly we could move the driveway over? That would have to involve DNR and a lot of other people, most likely, right? And
well,
some other
it was,
issues.
for us moving it
It's
more.
not impossible, but it's not something that's probably feasible, to be honest with you. It's not impossible, nothing's impossible, but it's probably not feasible, just to be honest with you.
So what we gotta deal with is we're limited in space and to move the driveway over the,
We could be
9
talking
feet.
around the other side, yeah.
The 9 feet or so over would take out a bunch of trees and probably get into our drainage, our, septic and drainage system.
Yeah, I think you're talking more like put it on the other property line and come around. I got you. I mean, I see it. I get it, but
Well, if we do it on the other side of the
we
property,
don't have to do it. I'm
we
just
won't be
saying.
able to put the, public restrooms on that end of the building. Which is kind of what DNR was wanting us to do, was to make some more public restroom space. That's kind of what the key issue was if they approved this. So, to go to DNR and ask for more property in order to gain a different access point. We've already been through that. This building, when did we get this building?
Back when I was on the city council.
So that would have been 2018, 2017. And it's only just now that we've finally figured out how we can use that.
Well, I'm all
property.
for the building being utilized, for
Yeah.
sure. I think it's just the access to the building that I'm just curious about, because definitely part of it is on the property that I live on. I'm not gonna live there forever. But I'm just simply curious because it does infringe upon the property that is leased by, my father-in-law. And
Right.
it's very close to where I live and I use the driveway multiple times every day.
And we would want you to be able to continue to do that, but. So. All I can say at this point, I can't make any guarantees, but all I can say at this point is we do not. We would continue to want to use and have access the same way that we've had, that DNR had for over 20 years, that the previous owner had for more than that. These two properties go back to like 1920. And I did a lot of deep research on it because I was concerned about that line, where that property line was, and I wanted to make sure. And so the original, that property owner also owned what the state park owns now. Deeded all of that to the state park at one point. Well, deeded to somebody else, they deeded it to the state park. That family also had owned the y'all's property. And so there was a joint access given, and when DNR was using that building exclusively, and the house that you're in was essentially vacant, they continued to go even across y'all's driveway that is not on the property that we own, thereby establishing a right to continue to use it. So like Craig said, we don't want to get into all the details and the guts of it, but we want to be good neighbors. We've continued to use it. We don't want to restrict y'all's access to it. So I would do everything I can to make sure that we don't block it while we're doing the construction, while we're using it for the police department. Anything that we do that would be obstructive will stay on our side of the line, but we've got to be in agreement that we can share that line for now, if we can. So,
Understood. Thanks.
yeah, as of this point,
It's important to be good now. And respect.
Yeah, and don't get me wrong, I'm not trying to be antagonistic.
Oh, me neither.
At all.
I'm simply curious. I don't know the
It's
property.
important to honor what you're asking.
I think if I owned that lease, I would feel comfortable knowing that if that was problematic, that it would be looked at some point in the future if for some reason it wasn't.
Yes.
Seems like that the owner of the lease should be able to have the opportunity to say, hey, this is not working, what's an
Oh,
alternative?
yeah, no, that's fine.
I would expect it to be
Yeah.
problematic, maybe in the construction phase with subcontractors using the space. I personally work on a construction crew and I know how subcontractors are.
Oh.
And I know that could be a real pain point. Because
can
we
be,
don't have the
but-
ability to turn around in our driveway.
Yeah.
We drive-
So you guys need to have her number or Chris's number, and if someone is parking and blocking your access while we're in this construction phase, have them say, hey, you need to move your truck. I do it on the dam project several times a month. So when we parking, that entire road is actually a fire lane. And so I've got to get fire trucks through there. This morning, as a matter of fact, Georgia Power parked one of their trucks in the road. And I said, hey, y'all gotta move it. So it happens.
And I'm not like
But-
afraid to use my voice and ask someone, hey, can you please move your truck?
Yeah.
This is my driveway.
And we will make sure that we communicate that to any of our contractors and subcontractors. Hey, this is a split use property. Let's make sure you do not. Within reason, because if they're having to unload stuff and they have a long bed trailer while they're unloading, might be a temporary inconvenience, but not a like hour long, 2 hour long. Yeah, it's not gonna be a permanent obstruction. We won't allow that at all. Because, well, for a lot of reasons, but one, Bill's been really good with the town and we don't want to do anything to cause pain for him or you guys as an extension. So.
I'll make sure we don't. I promise.
But-
I got you.
Yeah, so at this point, we're not exploring other accesses.
Sure.
But if we can't deal with this in a way that is pleasing to you guys, then please come back.
Well, I don't wanna be a headache, I'm just simply exploring, to ask you questions, trying to understand better.
I got it.
Communicate to Bill, he couldn't be here tonight, but, and I don't know how long I'll be living there, so it might not pertain to me.
Well, and it's to the future tenants as well. We would extend that same grace and gratitude yeah.
And he's got my number too, tell him to call me.
So, yeah, we don't want to be a nuisance. That's not the goal. The goal is to get that building into use.
For sure.
And to have some more public restroom space for business owners in the middle of town that don't have adequate facilities, and that's what that building is aimed for, so. So. I know we made a motion, let's just redo this. Get a motion to table the Rock House renovation letter. Jimmy makes the motion, Scott seconds, all in favor, unanimous. So we will get back to that hopefully by January, February at the latest, because I know we need to really get started on that project. All right, finally, we have our Arbor Day proclamation that we have to do every year. We are a Tree City, USA. And we have the official proclamation here in our. Okay, official proclamation from, I think this has to do with Georgia forestry, if I'm not mistaken. But it says, whereas in 1872, the Nebraska Board of Agriculture established a special day to set aside for the planting of trees. And this holiday called Arbor Day was first observed with the planting of more than 1 million trees in Nebraska. And whereas Arbor Day is now observed throughout the nation and world. And whereas trees can be a solution to combating climate change by reducing the erosion of our precious topsoil by wind and water, cutting heating and cooling costs, moderating the temperature, cleaning the air, producing life-giving oxygen, and providing for habitat and wildlife. And whereas trees are a renewable resource of giving us paper wood for our homes, fuel for our fires, and countless other wood products, and trees in our city increase property values, enhance the economic vitality of business areas, and beautify our community. And whereas trees, wherever they are planted, are a source of joy and spiritual renewal. Now therefore, I, the mayor of the city of Tallulah Falls, this day will urge all citizens to celebrate Arbor Day and support the efforts. And further, I would urge all citizens to plant trees and gladden the heart and promote the well-being of this and future generations. So, basically, just need a motion to adopt this proclamation. Okay, Jimmy makes the motion, Mike seconds, all in favor.
We love
All
our
right.
trees.
We love our trees, and that's fine. So we need to bear that in mind as we talk about our, I know that the tree ordinance might come back up. So between this and Firewise, which Firewise says cut everything down. Not really quite that drastic, but they want you to clear trees and stuff away. We gotta find a balance between these two, because yes, I believe Christy, my wife, is on the Tree City USA commission, if it still exists. So, we love trees. I like having all my trees around, but I understand that you gotta put some down the road. So.
Yes, cut some down.
Some, so conversation for another day. I will say that that's my mayor's comments, so that's done. It's open the floor to public comment.
Real quick, look, the Raven Joint Comprehensive Plan is in the back of the packet, if I have an accident.
Oh,
You have to add that one to the agenda.
we need that, okay, then I need
We
to
need to make
get,
a motion to add the. The right one?
oh, we gotta get this done by the end of the month, don't we?
Yes.
All we need to do.
Okay, then I need to have a motion to amend our agenda.
I'll make a motion to amend the agenda for the rest of the.
Okay, Scott seconds, all in favor? All right, I know Warren's gonna say this. I need to have a motion to adopt the amended agenda. Scott makes the motion. Jimmy seconds, all in favor, unanimous, all right. All right, so, we just went through our, I think it's like a 5-year. Renewal of our comprehensive plan. There were a bunch of items added, but they're not. What's the word I'm looking, compulsory. We're not-
Suggestion.
They're suggestions. They are, hey, we would like to do this by this time. Now, quite a few of them I think are far fetched for us. And I missed out on an opportunity to be involved in some of those conversations by my own action, not by inaction. But they're not detrimental, so we're not bound by anything on this. It's just, they do kind of fit in the direction that we would like to go. It's just some of them are financially not feasible at all. For example, being able to house, a medical unit here in town. There's very little chance we can do that. If the public safety money were to dry up. So there'd be an investment that wouldn't be long term. Anyways, I didn't see anything that was objectionable. I don't know if you guys read through any of it.
Yeah, we already had that meeting.
Yeah, we did.
Very good. Make a motion, we, sign it.
Okay.
All
Craig, seconded. Scott seconds, all in favor? All right, good to go. All right, now, public comments. And we're not gonna need executive session. So,
I have one.
go ahead.
So, a few months ago, I come in, we're talking about chapter 22 of the ordinance. We were talking about how, was it 22-2 about say public property, but, actual property being, let me give a note out. So, section 22-2, cleanliness of private properties. So in the 22-6 complaints and hearings, there was no guidelines on how to correct violation of the cleanliness of private properties. So I know that you said you were gonna look at that maybe because it would have to make a change. So again, going back to April, I had made a complaint about, the property across the street from us, which is still no improvement, it's even worse. There's 3 houses for sale on the mountain now that all have to pass that property to get to the houses for sale. So I was just wondering what the status is of that. Is anything on board with that or?
This time, not really. That's so many other things going on, but that's just not taking a high priority. Plus, the fact that is I think that falls under zoning. No, that doesn't fall under zoning. It's 22. The issue we ran into was that however that ordinance was crafted did not also then have a follow-up. And we always assumed that, what was it, 22-6?
22-6 is the, like about the hearing and how to
Right.
secure it, and pretty much in there, it only talks about properties that are kind of dilapidated and falling in.
Right.
And 22-2 is just about dumping yards and things of that sort. So when you're reading 22-6, it doesn't, you think as it goes on through the paragraph and on and on and on, that's how you would follow, but then it specifically states about dilapidated properties.
Right. And that,
So I know
so-
we mentioned we don't want to be a HOA, but the thing about it is that is already in the ordinance. We're not changing violations.
don't
we're
have-
just-
but we didn't have the means to enforce that ordinance when we adopted when we codified all of our ordinances back in 2017, I think it was 2018, somewhere in there.
Right.
When we codified, we didn't catch that there wasn't some way to do it. So, like I've said before, the problem we are facing is that many property owners in this town would have what would be considered a violation of that ordinance
Right.
that we were not enforcing, that was not enforceable. And then to suddenly go, hey, we're gonna start trying to figure out how to enforce this, that seems,
Yeah, but the thing about it is I understand, we've lived here we've owned the property since 19, we built the house. So I understand this same property that I'm complaining about has had many complaints over the years. It's not that I just brought it up and
Right.
I'm bringing that up. Yes, many people are in violation, and like I said before, you know, we move here. I accepted ordinances the way they are, I live within that ordinance, you know,
But you also enjoyed a reduced property value based on how that property already existed before it was even part of town. So how,
say that again.
okay, so when you bought your property, was that house already in the condition that it was in?
No.
It was,
No, that wouldn't, no, that much, no, that much.
Is it damage to the house, or are we talking junk?
No,
in the yard?
we're talking junk in the yard, like just, it's the Joey Fountain's property. So just drive by and look on the left side. I mean, I understand that he owns rental properties, so when someone moves out, this is what I'm thinking. Someone moves out, he gets rid of their junk, instead of dropping it off at the junk, he brings it up and unloads it. I mean, there's stuff, I mean, there's been stuff there over time, but you know, we're talking tires. We're talking, I mean, sometimes there's refrigerator on the front porch. You know, so no, it wasn't like that, but the thing about it is, you know, it's getting worse. And people, we've, you know, people have offered to help him, you know, clean it up or whatever, and it's not like he doesn't have means, he has a trailer. But you know,
It's a dilapidated house, old furniture in the yard that shouldn't be in the yard. It's been there for 3 to 4 years per the neighbors.
right,
Before we moved there, it hadn't changed, it's fully grown where the lower driveway's getting full.
yeah,
And, you know, they park the cars there now because the guy across the street's selling. So it's really getting congested and
right.
I don't see it changing until he moves or he doesn't care. You know, if someone had told me my yard's junky, I'd clean it. But I think he's got a little attitude about it and he's not doing anything, so.
Right.
Hmm.
Yeah, this is a delicate issue to start with. I understand
Yeah.
homeowners wanting to maintain.
well, I'm saying it's in the
properties.
ordinance, so it's not, I mean, when we talked about it before, it's come up, we can't be HOA
Well,
and
like-
tell them how tall their grass can be, we're not. I mean, it's
But
already
that's-
in the ordinance, we just have no way
We
of.
don't have a way to.
Enforce it. I mean, Tanya couldn't do anything about it.
Right. So the question then becomes for future conversations, do we want to start enforcing it, or are we gonna say, hey, I've been here for 25 years. And I've never thought that would be, I've lived by that ordinance as though it didn't exist. I've got a neighbor that has a bunch of junk in his yard too. And I had another neighbor that was in even worse condition, we won't get into. But Tanya can attest to. And I never brought it up because I moved here because this was a live and let live community. I kind of want to keep that going as much as possible while understanding y'all's concerns and seeing what we can do to alleviate that. So,
And just remove it from the ordinance.
and we may do that.
I mean, you know.
So, yeah, there's a lot in our ordinances that our sign ordinance still needs fixing. Because we've got conflicting ordinances on that. We have other ordinances that when they got codified weren't looked at in depth because, to be honest, we're not professional politicians. We're not professional lawyers sitting up here. We're just doing what we can with what we got. So
But you're responsible for it, though.
We
you
are.
know? Yeah.
we are.
I mean, and the thing about it, you know, you hear is that, yes, there's a lot of people are in violation of that. Like you said, you know. So are we not pursuing that because we're friends of them or, you know, it's just.
Oh, no, if you knew my relationship with my neighbor, no, not friends.
Yeah, I mean, I'm just saying, you know, I mean, pretty much, this is a beautiful town, you know, and we have a lot of visitors. We've talked about this before, I think, in the fall, we were number 3 in the North Georgia Mountains to come and visit. And we get a lot of people coming up the mountain, you know, driving by. I mean, we had people over Thanksgiving and they're like, what the hell's going on over there? I mean, you know, I'm like, you know, he's from the cows, he don't care, anyway. So, I mean, it's bad, And like I'm saying, you know, when Dr. McElroy, when he was not selling his house, they parked all in his yard with the trailer with the junk on it. The oven with the busted thing out, you know, and just sit there and for days. I looked up Google one day and looked in his driveway is the truck and trailer with junk on it on Google. So it's, you know, I mean, I don't know. You know, I'm kind of, you know, I follow the ordinance and do, you know, I like that because it protects. But if we're not gonna do anything with it, might as well take it out.
And it doesn't make sense to have an ordinance that you don't enforce.
No.
And it's always been that, you know, things didn't get looked at unless there was a complaint. And honestly, it's hard to make a complaint against your neighbor.
But one has been made.
Right? One has been made. So how,
But there was no,
so there's been no action taken on a complaint that's made.
There's been four,
Because
about
there was-
4 people complain.
because because there was no mechanism for us to act,
Well, that's what you need to look at,
so.
in my opinion. That's,
Yeah, I mean, and the thing about it is if you have this in the ordinance. And you can't enforce it, or you're not going to enforce it or change it, then how can you enforce other? Why add more to the ordinance? Because how can you say, okay, you have a tree ordinance, we're gonna implement and you wanna enforce that, but you're not doing this. If you got an ordinance, you gotta enforce it all,
Well, if the
Or not.
ordinance doesn't have an enforcement mechanism, then there's no way for us to.
then you need to fix it, and I will be happy to help you fix it. So let me know how I can help you. I mean, cause I understand y'all have other jobs and things of that sort, but
I agree
if
with
you
you.
take the position, you gotta work on it.
I agree with you wholeheartedly. If you've got an ordinance and you can't enforce it, what's the purpose of the ordinance? You're not having to begin with it.
Yeah.
You know, you can't have something where you can make sure someone abides by it. Less is more. You know, so
And it-
your point is well stated.
In section 22(1), it references the public authority and the officer. The public officer means the officer authorized by the chapter to exercise the powers prescribed. I mean, we have that already in place.
Yeah, but Warren looked at it and said, yeah, there's no, that, the other section that
It's
we were,
22.6 that doesn't.
Yeah,
that-
but
there's no enforcement mechanism to enforce that. There is an enforcement mechanism for 22.6. That's built in, that's for, mostly for like health hazards, derelict properties.
Yeah, I mean, 22.6 is complaints and hearing. So pretty much that really should cover anything in chapter 22. But
But
when you read
did-
into it, it's only about
Yeah.
if
It
the house is
restricted the
dilapidated, if
access.
there's a health hazard.
Right.
And it's not that, it's just,
Yeah, Warren looked at it, and said we didn't really have a way to
Yeah.
enforce that particular
Yeah.
at the time, and look at it, but to be, in all fairness. Because of so many other things we've had to get done for the settlement agreement, for everything else that's been going on, that's kind of become a back burner issue.
I know we're at 9 months.
Yeah.
yeah.
So-
My original complaint was April.
April, yeah, so we're going on 9 months, you know,
Well,
and I think,
And there's been other people, I mean, that have complained about the same house.
Right.
You know, that nothing, because when I said, you know, when I asked people, you know, they were like, there's no need to complain, nothing's gonna happen, so. So we're not the first. And I don't wanna say, you know, we moved in here seeing that, did he have stuff there? Yes, but has stuff coming, you know, in, and
yeah,
maybe with the business sector home, maybe that'll take care of it, if that gets installed, because pretty much his rental business is being brought and thrown in his driveway.
yeah, one of our biggest, struggles that we've had since I've been living here was people going up to Hickory Mountain to buy property. Driving right by a piece of property on Main Street, seeing how it was being kept with a bunch of cars and everything spread around. They drove by it multiple times until they bought their house. Then after they built by their house, then they start complaining. about someone else that's not even inside their house. I know y'all are different, but it's inside of your house and your property. That's been one of the biggest struggles in this town, has been that people coming in wanting to change what's here after they've gotten here. And that's,
You think they were gonna change it before they got here?
yeah, well, then don't come here. If you don't like the way it is,
That's
I
not
mean,
an argument.
then I don't know how-
You're not transmitting this on, online here.
it
That's
will
not
be,
really
she's
an
gonna
argument.
upload it, she's gonna upload it, but no,
Yeah.
that's been the attitude for the last 25 years is, if you don't like what's here, why move here?
But people do move
They
here
do.
to make it with the hope that they can have an influence, to constantly make better.
Yeah.
No,
And that's what you want. You want that
Yeah.
sort of spirit.
Be
You
glad
wanna
we
be
moved here, 'cause
neighborly,
that tax.
but you
that we
always
have with
want-
taxes.
What's best, you know, for the town.
right,
Yeah.
And even without enforcement, the most you can is encourage and hope that someone on their own would be honorable
right,
Yeah.
and do the wishes, not try to make waves, particularly, and if they're not able to, if people are willing to help them.
right,
It's a helping spirit. It's not a antagonistic way about it. Let's do this for the harmony of the whole.
right, which
And it's
is,
been offered, that's been offered.
which is
Yeah.
why I really would, I wanna try to keep focused on the community spirit, like you're
Right.
saying, and not have to have an ordinance forcing someone, because that's where I start getting into the HOA analogy. Is that at some point, you're gonna have someone come in and say, hey, I don't like the color of your house, I don't like how
But that's
tall
not an
your.
ordinance.
That's not your, not
I
right
think we need to
now.
have a community cleanup day. We'll buy all the dumpsters and we'll just park them in clean spots. Different hands. I know we've done it in the past. I'm just saying, put it in the right
People
spot.
don't always
Make
get
it
the
easy.
ends.
I mean,
Although we did that one time, when we used to do the dumpster down here every year,
Yeah.
there would be some interesting stuff show up in that dumpster that wasn't just late cleanup.
yeah. I mean, the thing
Oh,
about it
it's
is
like-
this is being
It's
brought
supposed to be
in
late cleanup.
all the way up the mountain when we pass by the place. I'll pay for him to dump it. I mean, you
Right,
know, I mean, why, it's.
we used to do a
it's
joint
there.
thing with Georgia Power, and we'd have a big, 50 yard?
Yeah, I remember we used to have a dumpster out there. I remember what it was for.
Roll
It's for
on.
lake cleanup.
It was supposed to be for late
Yeah, I
cleanup,
can't
but
remember.
boy, all sorts of interesting things showed up in that
Yeah.
dumpster, which was nice, because then we didn't have tires on the side of the road.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Among
But
other
just,
things.
just back to the, because they're saying that, like, if you didn't like it, don't move here. Towns that don't grow, that can control growth, die. So you gotta have a little bit of growth. I'm not saying uncontrolled growth, Gwinnett County, Hall County, all that, I've lived there. But I'm saying, you know, there's gotta be a little growth or they don't go anywhere.
This town is.
And
is
as far as
persistent.
I'm concerned, we built a house, I mean, we brought value to this community. That's my next door selling the house for 1.1 million.
Yeah.
So, you know, we moved here, we're paying taxes, but,
They
you
sold
know,
his house for 1.12 million immediately across the road from the junk house.
they've got it up for sale for 1.18 million.
Well,
That's
just
interesting.
watching, see how that transpires.
Yeah.
and what-
And there's one on the house for 900,000 and another one for 699.
Right.
So, yeah,
So,
It would be, I know nothing about Joey Fountain personally, but, and I understand your point in the live and let live and not trying to come and change this town, but I totally empathize with you. It'd be nice if you could, if someone were friends with Joey Fountain or knew him, to go have a conversation as a community member and say, hey, we have this ordinance that we don't maybe strictly enforce, but we might have to start enforcing this if we can't come to an agreement to respect our neighbors and keep the place clean. There's plenty of able-bodied young teenagers here who are willing to get out and work and help. I'm willing to get out and help clear the space, you know, and there's. a
that's
ton of
actually been
community.
done.
And so I feel like there maybe is a solution, and to me, enforcement doesn't necessarily have to be black and white. Enforcement could be a warning, could be not a threat, not a fine imposed, but a, hey, there's been, the community has complained, and here's a warning to please take care of this for the betterment of our community and the collective spirit. So I don't think it's for trying to change the town. I think it's.
No, I'm sorry, I didn't mean to imply that. I was,
I mean, I did get that,
Yeah.
but I mean,
no, it's, you
yeah.
gotta keep in mind, I've got 25 years of experience in hearing all this stuff, and so there's a lot of broad strokes that I'm getting. I don't do.
Doing something
Yeah.
about
Yeah,
that.
you have to.
That's good.
Yeah.
Tanya's,
Yeah, and one thing, Tanya has talked to him, there's been a couple of people that have actually talked to him and said, hey, you know, let me know if I can help you, and this is like there's no, I mean, I have lived there for going on, not lived 5 years, but I've owned property 5 years. I've never had a conversation with him because, and I'm not putting on, but I mean, I've literally stopped and he will just walk away. He pulled his car out one day and had the top back and it was about to rain, so Chris walked over and knocked on the door and said, to tell him, hey, you probably need to get your top up, and he come to the door and was like, I'm on the phone, slammed the door on. Okay, that's what you're dealing with.
right,
So, I mean, at this point, there's some people that, you know what?
no,
Yeah,
I'm totally,
I'm over it. Well, I'm not over it.
no,
I will be back, but
we,
yeah, I've been,
Are you over for tonight?
oh, yeah.
Okay.
okay.
I mean, yeah, I mean, I just be, maybe just be on the lookout, because maybe I'll go there.
Oh, boy.
I'll be on call.
Well, and you know, let's keep in mind that there was that time where we had, we made someone put up covering on their porch so that we wouldn't see the junk.
That was,
You know,
yeah,
so could that be an
was
option
a
here, but
request.
yet we know what.
there was a
happened in that
request made,
situation.
yeah, it was a request made and it was honored by the person on his own free will. This one is a different situation where we we've run into a situation now where in the past we've been able to say, hey, can you hide your stuff so that people don't see it driving by? And both parties were like, yeah, this is good enough. This doesn't seem to be the same situation.
Yeah, go beyond that.
Community and neighborliness has to go both ways.
I mean, like I'm saying, I mean, we would help.
Yeah.
I mean.
Yeah,
but
the other property I mentioned briefly, we had outside influence and offers, and he took us up on it. But then situations changed pretty drastically and changed that whole situation, but it's being remedied now. Fortunately, Tanya was involved in that one as well, so not to get into that, but yes.
All right, so I'm over it tonight.
Protecting our interests and protecting his interests
Yeah.
need to go both ways.
Yeah.
So.
And I'm not, I mean, I'm nice to all my neighbors,
Right,
you know, and I'm not. I would help any of them.
I think
But
it's
you gotta,
unfair to the folks that are trying to sell homes. That they could either lose value in the sale or not be able to sell their home. Because of what they're passing on the way up the road.
right,
You know, again, it goes back to being part of a community.
yeah.
I mean, you know,
That's been my dilemma the whole time in all of this is where's that balance? Where do we find that balance? And I'm not sure that I know where that is yet, and I think we still need to have conversations about it. I didn't mean for this to
Yeah.
be delayed as long as it is, but you do need to keep in mind that we have so much going on that
I will
we,
volunteer to help.
if,
Well, he brings a lot of stuff home from the business and goes to the junkyard. I guess a lot of it ends up in keeping, but most stuff that comes in on trailer goes out to the dump. It's twice as more valuable than what's in the driveway.
Yeah, I mean, sometimes we're looking at hot water heaters for a few weeks, or the back of the lawnmower sitting in the yard tilling the grass. I mean, it's just, I don't know, maybe I'm just keep up my property better, but, okay.
that's good, you're being a good.
I wanted to bring it up again,
I
because
just-
I'm back.
Yeah, no, please, I'm not asking to. I'm not trying to be dismissive, I just want to be clear about it. I know it sounds,
I mean,
May not
maybe,
sound
I
that
mean,
way.
I see that, you know, if we make him do it, other people are gonna have to do it, but
I just wanna be careful.
Just because we haven't enforced it over the years.
What does that mean? Are you gonna get with Warren and scope out how you might handle this issue?
No, what I might wanna do is have a town hall meeting and get other input from people that have been enjoying the free use of their property that might now be following this
So that you
enforcement,
can
so we can get
ditch the
input,
ditch the ordinance and move forward?
possibly. I honestly, my first thought was to ditch the ordinance. It really was, but then I'm saying, okay. But what happens when I'm not here anymore, sitting in this seat? And this is our conversation about our alcohol ordinance, our beer and wine ordinance too. We fell along the same lines. The idea is that we have a community that exists the way it is now. How do we protect that? So eliminating this ordinance would then open the door for someone to come in and make a new ordinance. So maybe this is the time for us to take this ordinance that is imperfect, craft it in a way that helps encourage community and neighborliness with each other. And make it a way that's in quote unquote enforceable without creating alienation among neighbors. But I don't know how to do that just yet.
You know, and
Well, that's where I'm going. I mean, what are you gonna do? Because this lake's coming back, Mike, so I mean, and the arguments that you made, with all due respect, because you know I love you.
Yeah.
They aren't arguments that I would be making in a public. You know, we should have an ordinance and not enforce it. That's not.
No, I never intended
Or
that.
I don't want to enforce it, so I'm gonna get rid of it.
Right.
And
So,
But here's-
that's not, and your whole argument is premised on the point that everything that existed before should continue to exist. And that's not necessarily true.
No, but I also want input from more people. We have 200 residents in this town. I'm hearing from one. Well, two, no offense, possibly three. Out of 200, that's still not, we're still not getting above like the 1% mark. And that's probably part of the problem we have ordinances that we have now. Is because one or two people would come to the council meeting, create enough noise, and the council would make a change, make an ordinance. It's rather than reaching out and finding out what other people's opinions were, but based on this one squeaky wheel, we now have an ordinance. Now, in this case, we have an ordinance we can't enforce.
Oh,
that's it wasn't written correctly.
That's a fair point, Mike.
Okay, so that's what I'm trying to fight against. That's what I want. I don't want to continue to repeat in this town. Is I don't want to continue to let the few squeaky wheels. Now, I'm not saying you're a few squeaky wheels. There may be many more out there, but I want to hear from them.
No, that's fine.
So we had a petition passed around, 35 people signed
the
in
one that I,
objection. Yeah.
74.
Oh, 74. So 74, we had almost a 50% response to the development. Hey, that's okay.
I thought
get
that was pretty good out of town of 200.
Yeah.
Yeah.
There's
So
74 people.
that's kind of what that's.
The encouraging the town not to rezone that property beside me to commercial.
And so we had a great response to that. That's the battle, and that was essentially part of my intent to take this position on with all the headaches it has was to stop letting a few people have that much influence on a town of this size. Let's get everybody involved, or the majority of people. I remember when they were gonna do the greeter center out here. Holy cow, I don't think, we almost couldn't fit everybody in this room when they were gonna do that
I mean, it's.
welcome center. Yeah, what Nancy Schaefer was doing for a welcome center over here. So yeah, there are some hot topic issues. That's my
Yeah.
concern, is I wanna hear from
And I understand.
a larger number. of
And I'm not coming here trying to change anything. I'm just saying it's here, we're not enforcing it,
people. Right.
you know, and, I've been patient. We've been
Yes.
talking about this since April. And,
You're talking about some
so
things for
I'm
20
done with
years,
this
so.
tonight, maybe it's Renee in 2028, I don't know. Who
All
knows?
means,
Yes,
uh,
I'll be
So-
retired by then, so I'll have my time to dedicate it to get it done.
right. So, like I said, I'm not being dismissive. I do have concerns. I'm not really well
Okay,
versed in how to explain those, but yeah. We'll keep, I'm not opposed to continuing to look at it. I don't think the council is either. Not that I'm in control of this council either, by the way. So, I think, yeah. Let us,
If you have ordinances on it though, that you're not going to enforce, that could lead you down to
yes.
a road that you don't want to go.
It does.
So if you're gonna have them on the books, enforce them, and if you're not take them off your books, because otherwise, somebody's gonna get pissed off, and they're gonna go to court, and they're gonna get rid of me, and what's called a writ of mandamus to force you to enforce them,
right.
okay?
Yeah,
And you
that's-
don't want that to happen either.
That has been a conversation that Warren and I and Linda and several previous council members have had.
Yeah.
We need to revamp our codes.
Well, then maybe you should set up a working committee.
We don't have
The council with
Yeah.
other members of the community to do exactly that.
Mhm.
We just
And
didn't
that
have
way
the
you can
money.
get your input that you're looking for, right?
If enough people will get involved, yeah.
So is there a possibility of having a town hall meeting in January like we've done in the past? January or February?
Probably not January. This can depend because we've got to deal with HB 581. And if we're going to opt out, we'll have to have 3 meetings in short succession to make that, to be able to opt out. And that's we have to have it done by March 1st. So that's gonna tie our hands until March if we decide to explore that option. There's a lot, and I unfortunately couldn't get into it tonight. I didn't have enough information. We don't have some numbers. Is that House bill theoretically could bankrupt our town if we don't opt out. So
That takes fire.
that's gonna take some priority for us to see what we wanna do about that first, so.
Yes.
And because of our schedules and trying to get things pulled together, pulling together that many meetings in that short amount of time is gonna be a challenge, so. But yes, come back, I know.
It's on record again.
See, and here's the other problem with that, then by April, we're starting to have budget hearings. So,
Then we
It's
have
just-
summer break.
and then we have summer break,
Then.
yeah.
Look, I work in government, I understand.
It's difficult, like I said, we've been talking about a footbridge across the lake for 20 years. So sometimes it just takes time in a town of this size to get things going, it's not that you're being ignored. It's just we are.
And like I say, maybe there's a committee that looks at that. I mean, I look at ordinance every day and work with ordinance.
Yeah, well, we were looking at actually hiring an outside attorney to go through and help with this. And we looked at it several different ways, our budget's just so
Well, I was
tight.
gonna say, I mean, I'm up to here with the consultants where I work, and I think you have people in this community that can view that and
I
bring.
know
suggestions.
David's good, but I don't wanna put.
I mean,
I'm not gonna put that on, he's retired.
They're gonna be a committee. I mean, there's many people that are capable of doing that free of charge.
Yeah.
And so that we don't keep saying we can't do it because we don't have the money, you know, I mean, I'm willing to step up and help. Because I don't know what I mean, you just have to tell me what you want, I mean.
Yeah, that's, so,
Can I offer my water report and I can go? on?
oh, yeah, go ahead, Jimmy, do you need one?
It's too late.
I'm
It's
sorry.
done.
You should have got it and walked out ages ago, we would have still had
Use the
a.
restroom, but
Yeah,
if we're gonna be over, if we're gonna adjourn, I'll wait.
we'll adjourn after, unless there's something else.
Make it quick.
Okay, David,
Yeah,
you're
this is
the final item.
So the Water and Sewer Authority is going forward with their major project, which is to replace the filters in the Lake Raven plant. That is going forward in the 3rd week of January. They'll be taking one offline. And then the other. So this is gonna be a 3-month project during the first quarter of 2025. Then it ought to be completed. So that's one thing that's going on. The other thing that's going on is the DOT has started their work at Dillard, my understanding. And that's gonna take, that part of the project, I think is gonna take 4 years, 3 or 4 years, it's projected to go through Dillard, because that's gonna be a real tough thing for them to do. And they were doing that project in 3 phases, and Dillard was first, and second was Clayton to Mountain City. That was the second phase of the project. Okay, and then the third phase was what they call the flatlands in there, Mountain City up to Dillard. Okay, well, we've got notice that they intend to do this, the third phase, they intend to start that like first quarter next year. Yeah, so I don't know why that's happening, that they're still trying to figure that out, but one of the things that they did is we authorized our engineering firm to start gearing up for studies and stuff like that, so that we can do the work that the authority needs to do when they're doing that phase of the project, which I don't know why they bumped it up, but apparently they have. So that's the main things going on. And they're using a different meter than you are, and you guys recently bought some meters, they're using a different variety of meter, but I checked the meters with them that you guys bought, and they said it's a real good company, a real good deal, and you guys did well.
Good.
Okay. Yeah.
Yeah, that highway project, I'm suspicious because the low bid was not a company that's ever only been used before for the highway expansion project. And I've got a sneaking suspicion they lowballed.
Vertical?
Huh?
Vertical?
I don't know the name of it.
I think so, it's not, yeah, they do huge jobs all over the place.
So do they?
Oh, yeah.
Okay. All right, well, from our perspective, what we were told is it was a company none of us had heard of.
And Vertical's been around for a long time, they bid on,
We were suspicious they lowballed and then would not be able to complete the project, so but they're a big company.
yeah, now they're bonded, I mean, we have to submit a bid payment performance bond. So, yeah, it'll get done.
Okay. Well, that's good, because poor Linda's gonna have to put up with all that on a daily basis for many years. So hopefully they can get it done quickly, so, all right, any other input, public comment? If not, then I'll entertain a motion to adjourn. Scott makes the motion, Mike seconds, all in favor. Let's go home, guys. Thanks. Thank you. Appreciate it.
Appreciate y'all.
Thank you, Alex.
Thank you, Mike.
I got it. I'm ready to work.
Okay,
And,
good.
anything else?
I'll let them thank you. Hope you feel better.
Bye. Mike, don't forget to stop the recording.
Do what?